Aloha! Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Dulcimerica video podcast. My name is Futch, and I think it's about time we got back to the basics. That sounds like a Waylon Jennings song. It does. Anyway, it's been a long summer traveling and a long fall doing projects and stuff like that. And now we want to get down to the dirty of it and talk about getting to know your instrument better. So I'm going to start off, and these will be for different skill levels, but I think this is one that everybody could use either to get acquainted with the mountain dulcimer or as a refresher course for the instrument. We'll be talking about scales. And what I've learned over the summer is that even though there are a lot of hobbyists playing mountain dulcimers, everybody does want to learn a little bit of music theory because that will help you to learn the playing field a bit better. And also it's sort of like a map through the woods. You kind of know where the quicksand is and how to get around that seemingly impassable river if you know where all the stones are in the river, or where you know where all the hard land is around all the mud bogs. So music theory is a scary phrase, but as many people have said, everybody knows music theory. We just don't know all the terms for everything. And so if we sort of start off real slow and look at some of the very fundamentals of music and how it relates to our instrument in particular, it becomes a lot less scary and the light bulbs begin to go on. And so I hope to lead you down that path here in these next series of videos. We're going to start off talking about the notes on the dulcimer and why they work so well with a modal instrument. Now, there are two very different scales we're talking about here. In the Western musical language, there is a chromatic scale. I'm sure you've heard the word before. Chroma actually means color, but that doesn't have too much to do with the fact that there are 12 chromatic notes leading from C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, E sharp, F, F sharp, all the way up the scale. We know as dulcimer players, we don't have all those extra notes in between. We don't have all the black keys on the piano. We basically have a diatonic scale, which is a 7-note scale that repeats, and so we have 8 notes in the scale, 8 being an octave up from the first one. Normally we're tuned in DAA or DAD when we're playing mountain dulcimer, although there are exceptions, DGD, ADA, CGG, all kinds of other different tunings. But primarily most people in the dulcimer world are tuned either in DAA or DAD. Because we're playing in that way, and we're playing mostly sometimes with open drone, we're playing in the key of D. So it's very important to familiarize yourself with the notes of the D major scale. The notes of a D major scale are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp. Of course, we finish off the scale with the D after that last C sharp, which is an octave above where we started. So let's start off with the D major scale as it relates to the mountain dulcimer. In DAD tuning, we have got our open note D, and we're going to make our way up the scale, skipping over the 6th fret and using the 6.5 fret to catch our C sharp. Going from the open, strumming only that melody string, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And then back down again, D, C sharp, B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. Now some of you may already know that. Some of you may have just realized what those areas on the dulcimer actually were. No problem with that, because there are many people who go their entire lives never knowing notes. The music's already inside them, so don't sweat that. It will help you to know what the notes are for doing other things like making chords and also playing songs you don't know and knowing what notes are safe to play and what notes aren't. Same thing on the bass string. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Back down again, D, C sharp, B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. Again, many of you know that. This is a good practice to do, even if you're used to doing it, just to say those notes or even sing those notes as you go up and down the scale on the fretboard. Now, the D major scale, as we looked at it, has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. We're going to add a sharp to the scale now. So we got F sharp already, we have C sharp, and now we're going to add G sharp. And the only place we have a G sharp, unless you have extra frets, is on the middle string, the A string, right there at the 6.5 fret, that's G sharp. So our second to last note, our 7th note of the scale, starting with open on the middle string, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and back down again. A, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B, A. That's the A major scale, 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. D major scale has F sharp and C sharp. So let's go to another scale that we can play on the dulcimer. That only has 1 sharp. That's the key of G. That's the G major scale, and it only has F sharp. And we can play the G major scale from the 3rd fret on the dulcimer, on the melody string, and on the bass string. So we're going to play our 8 notes of the scale, leading right on up. We're going to play the C. Remember, because C is not going to be sharp in this key, we only have F sharp. We'll skip across the 6.5 fret and keep going on up to fret number 10 from the 3rd fret on the melody string. Let's give that a go. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And back down again. G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. That's our G major scale on the dulcimer from the 3rd fret, a series of whole steps and half steps that make up your basic major scale. Now, what I like to do, we've looked at how to play these scales up and down the fretboard in a linear fashion, one after the other, like a ladder, up and back down again. One of the cool things about playing dulcimer is that you can play it any way you want to, and one of those ways is to play across the strings and pick out melody notes. So let me show you some across the strings versions of those scales, and we're playing what are known as boxes to a lot of people. We'll start here with the D major scale, but what we're going to do is we're going to walk up the bass string, open, and then we're going to play the first 3 frets. And then we're going to move up to the middle string, play the open, and then play those same 3 frets, just like this. Now let's take a look at the G major scale across the fretboard, and I'm going to show you that same box starting here at the 3rd fret on the bass string. Now here it's very evident that we have our 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bass string, and then we'll pull over here to the middle string and do our 1, 2, 3, 4 there. For our final one, the A major scale across the strings. Now this one's a little bit tricky because we have to skip the 6th fret. Why? Because there are 3 sharps in the A major scale, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and the 6th fret contains C and G. So we want to skip over those and use the 6.5 fret as the 3rd in our series of 4 boxes. So we're going to start on the bass string from the 4th fret, and we're going to walk up, skipping that 6th fret, hitting the 6.5 and the 7th, and coming over to the middle string and doing the same 4 fret box across the strings like this. So, that is scales, key of D, key of G, key of A. We'll talk more about how they relate to each other, different secrets involving the boxes, and more fun stuff to come. Thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, mahalo, nui loa.